The upcoming World Cup match between the United States and Australia is a $19.4 million materials engineering experiment. To host World Cup matches, FIFA mandates a 100% natural grass surface. For Seattle's Lumen field, that requires a complex workaround to cover their field turf core synthetic carpet. Executing this temporary pitch overlay required massive state funding. Governor Bob Ferguson signed a stadium upgrade bill authorizing $19.4 million to ensure the venue met international requirements. To hide the artificial turf, engineers layered 12 to 14 inches of sand and gravel over the synthetic carpet. Because of the damp climate, an active ventilation system forces air upward through the sand to manage gas exchange and regulate root zone temperatures. Bypassing a full turf tear-out saved time, but introduced a structural vulnerability common to temporary overlays. Under World Cup-level athletic loads, these surfaces often tear. To build a more resilient surface, agronomists at a specialized turf farm in Washington developed a cool season recipe. They used a blend of Kentucky bluegrass for lateral strength and perennial ryegrass for its upright structure. With sod-on-plastic technology, seeds are sown into sand over impermeable plastic sheeting. Hitting this barrier forces roots to spread sideways, forming a dense mat. This allows the intact plant to be peeled off, preserving reserves and eliminating transplant shock. In traditional sod harvesting, a heavy reciprocating blade violently severs up to 90% of the active root system. That leaves the turf weak and prone to shifting under heavy use. The final step in Seattle's pitch construction involves stitching the root mat with synthetic fibers. These fibers physically lock the sand matrix in place, preventing the surface from moving under lateral loads. This biological engineering created a surface that resists tearing, but it also changed the way the ground reacts to a player's joints. In modern soccer, the primary biomechanical threat occurs when a player's cleats plant and transfer immense rotational torque into the ground during sharp cuts. Standard artificial turf is notorious for its high coefficient of friction. The synthetic fibers can effectively lock the shoe studs into the surface. When a foot locks on artificial turf, energy returns directly into the leg, increasing non-contact ACL tear risk by 28%. But natural grass acts as a release valve. Under extreme force, the root zone shears, creating a divot that limits peak torque. Engineers use a shear vane tester to measure this release valve. The metric is called rotational resistance, and it's measured in Newton meters. FIFA mandates that rotational resistance must fall between 25 and 65 Newton meters to protect players while maintaining enough traction for sprinting. Mechanical data from the Seattle pitch shows a highly stable average of 25 Newton meters. It is a surface optimized for both footing and safety. Grounds crews also measure surface hardness, or Gmax, using a missile drop test that records Clegg impact values. The 14-inch sand overlay provides significant vertical compliance. By keeping the Gmax well below the 100-mark safety threshold, the pitch cushions the kinetic energy of a player's footfall. The $19.4 million solution was a success. Engineers built a temporary pitch that protects joints from extreme loads while maintaining stable traction. For the United States men's national team, the biomechanical profile of this pitch interacts directly with their physical playstyle. The U.S. game plan relies on high-intensity counterpressing and quick central combinations. Because this pitch absorbs shock effectively, it reduces the eccentric leg strain experienced during a match. This vertical compliance theoretically allows the U.S. to sustain their pressing intensity and energy levels deeper into the game. Australia takes a different tactical posture, often sitting in a defensive block and waiting for the right moment to strike. While vertical compliance aids the American press, the horizontal stability of this hybrid system will create an entirely different tactical reality for the Australian defense. Australia's primary strategy is the 5-4-1 low block. They remain highly compact to limit central passing lanes and force the attacking team into wide areas. Slow possession plays into this defense, allowing the back five to maintain their shape. Attacking teams use wide overloads to solve this. Committing extra players to a flank forces the defense to shift, opening passing lanes back into the center. Australia's countermeasure is built on transition. The moment the United States commits numbers forward for an overload, they leave their flanks exposed to a counterattack. Australia executes this strategy through explosive wingers like Nestori Irankunda, who are tasked with sprinting into those vacant spaces at maximum velocity. A wide counterattack requires total underfoot stability. To change direction at full speed, a winger needs a surface that will not give way under their cleats. On most temporary pitches, a high-speed transition is often ruined by a slip when the sod tears away from the sand. Breaking down a low block while defending against fast wingers requires precision from the players and a flawless performance from the pitch itself. In Seattle, the biomechanical data reveals a surface with 25 Newton-meters of rotational resistance. This optimal shear strength allows the Australian wingers to plant and accelerate without the turf deforming beneath them. The synthetic stitching locking the root zone together prevents the very tearing that usually neutralizes wide transitions on temporary surfaces. Organizers engineered this tear-resistant pitch solely to prevent injuries on a temporary World Cup surface. But in the process of protecting players, the engineers built a slip-free launch pad specifically optimized for Australia's explosive wingers. This creates a dangerous scenario for the United States. Every attacking overload they attempt triggers a counterattack on a surface we enforce to never give way. On June 19th, the United States takes the field against an opponent whose greatest tactical weapon is now perfectly supported by the $19.4 million ground beneath their feet.